So we're going to switch now to updating your priorities and local guidelines, which, as I say here, has to be done ASAP. And I'm going to turn that over to Hanako. Hanako?
Yes, thank you, Lisa. Okay, so and I'm Hanako. I'm one of the program officers and the communities team, and it's nice to see familiar names here and nice to meet those of you and see your names for those we don't know. I'm going to be covering the guidelines and priorities report and all the information that you need to know about the portions of it so that you'll know how to fill it out. And then I'll be doing a walkthrough in Smart Simple as well, so you'll know exactly how to fill it out and submit it. So Lisa already mentioned this, but the report is due on August 31st at midnight. It is coming up. We have a little bit more than a week to do this. And we cannot accept late submissions because on September 1st, those local guidelines and priorities that you submitted in Smart Simple are going to become visible to all applicants on our website on your local cultural council page. And we want to make sure that all applicants are receiving the same information, so we really can't accept late submissions. Another important thing to note about this is that your local guidelines and priorities don't automatically roll over from last year. So in the case that you've met and you've decided, we know our guidelines and priorities really worked for us this year, you do have to go back to your guidelines and priorities that you used last year and paste them into this year's report and submit that report so that they will show up for your for this coming grant cycle. And then in this report, there are three things. So the first thing is that you'll be updating your local priorities and local guidelines that you'll be using for this FY24 grant cycle. The second thing is that you'll be reporting if you'll be using reimbursement grants or direct grants as your grant payment method for FY24, and I'll be going over that as well. And the third thing is that you're going to update and verify your council's member list. And we're really excited about this. We actually have a video now. Carolyn, who's one of our program officers, did create a video that walks you through how to add new members in Smart Simple, as well as how to update information about existing council members. So that is a resource that is available on our YouTube page. So one thing that when we talk about guidelines and priorities, a big question that we often get is, what is the difference? What is the difference between guidelines and priorities? So guidelines are, they clearly communicate any local application instructions or restrictions. So examples of this include maybe you want to limit the dollar amount awarded to any one applicant, or maybe you want to limit the number of applications that any one applicant can submit because you're dealing with limited funds. So these are very, you're saying that this is what we will allow. So they're really about restrictions. Local priorities and local review criteria help you to support projects that best meet the needs of your community. So it's really about that keyword priorities. So examples of this are you might want to prioritize applicants who offer programs or events in your local community. Maybe you receive a lot of applications for events that are happening in cities or towns that are a little bit further. Maybe you want to prioritize the ones that are happening in your community. You can also prioritize applications from LGBT organizations and organizations that center BIPOC or Black, Indigenous, and people of color individuals and communities. So again, the real difference is guidelines are more about instructions and restrictions. Priorities are what are going to help you figure out which grants you'd like to fund over others. And guidelines and priorities are very important because they help you decide what grants you'd like to fund. And as Lisa mentioned, the guidelines are they are a little bit vague. So these allow you to use that community input and figure out what you would actually like to see in your community and be responsive to what you're hearing from your community members. We do have more examples on our website. Again, we'll be sending out this presentation afterwards, and it'll also be posted to the website. So you'll be able to click this link. The next part that mentioned that will be in this report is the grant payment method. So reporting to us which grant payment method you'll be using. Reimbursement grants, I'm sure a lot of you know this, but the grants are paid after the programs are complete versus with direct grants, grantees are paid after receiving their approval notification. There is more paperwork upfront with direct grants, but hopefully the hope is that there's more paperwork upfront, but you'll be able to have it's less of a rolling process where you're reimbursing multiple receipts throughout the grant cycle, and it does make it so that you're working on giving funds and doing and working with your municipal fiscal officer to distribute the funds in more of like a restricted time frame as opposed to throughout the year. More information about this is again in the LCC guidelines. We also have a page dedicated to all of this information on our website. So again, I encourage you to visit the website. The link is here. It's also should be pretty easy to find, we hope, on our in the LCC toolkit on the website. And one thing that we want to mention here is that we are encouraging councils to become direct grant councils if you aren't already. We offer this option to really eliminate that reimbursement-based granting requirements. So this is because that makes grant money available full and upfront to grant recipients, right? So first, it enhances LCC programming opportunities by imposing less financial hardship on potential grantees. There might be potential applicants in your communities that might want to apply for funding, but maybe they don't have those funds up front. So direct granting allows you to give those funds and maybe potentially fund programs that wouldn't otherwise happen. And then second, we also want to simplify the grant payment process for municipalities and councils, which is kind of what I talked about in the previous slide. I do want to mention that we've also received some feedback, and we've also heard from cultural council members that they have gotten questions from their municipalities about whether or not they can do direct grant payment in the first place, because local municipalities don't allow for payment other than in a reimbursement form. But we did check with the State Department of Revenue, the Division of Local Services, and we do have a ruling on that, and there is language here. Please reach out to your program officer if you have any questions about the granting methods. If you have any questions about this language, we are definitely here to help you and figure out which grant payment method works for your council. Great. Okay, so I'm going to go walk through Smart Simple with you to show you exactly how to submit the report. So we're going to go to Smart Simple, and I have that open here. Okay, so this is for a fake LCC. So I am on Test LCC. We've logged in. I'm on my home screen. It says welcome to me, and then we're gonna go down to LCC annual report, which is the second heading. We're filling out this first report that says guidelines and priorities. Again, it's due August 31st. I'm gonna click into that. And if when you scroll down, you're gonna see that there are two entries on this page. That first one, FY24, this is the one that you will be submitting for this upcoming grant cycle. There is also another report that is available. That is the one from last year, the FY23 report. So if you do want to use your guidelines and priorities from last year, you are very welcome to open last year's. And then you will see under the second tab, LCC cycle. Unfortunately, Test LCC didn't submit them last year, but if you did submit them, they should be here. So you can copy these over, put them in a document, and then paste them into the new report. So let's go ahead and fill out that FY24 report. So I'm going to go back, click back into guidelines and priorities. Okay. So we see FY24, it's in draft form. We're going to open this report. The first part, you're going to see your staff contact information. Mine is blank, but yours will show up with your staff contact, your program officer. It'll come up with their name and their contact information, including email and phone number. So please reach out to them if you have any questions. You will also see, if you scroll down, information about your cultural council. All of this, we want to make sure that we verify this information. It will be posted publicly to your cultural council webpage on the Mass Cultural Council site. If it's correct, everything looks good, you can click yes. If it's not, there's a link right here that says, please update your organization profile. It's a really handy link because when you click it, it's going to take you directly to the page where you can edit all that information. So if anything's incorrect, you can edit it here and then click save, and then it will update. Okay, so let's say that this is correct. We want to confirm that we've completed. And another really important thing as you're filling out this report, we always want to click save draft. We never know what's going to happen. Maybe it doesn't save. We will go off to something else. We put more information in. We don't want to lose any of that information. So every single time you update, click save draft. Okay, so that's part one. The second part of this report is this LCC cycle tab at the top of the page. It's first going to ask you about your community input date. So this is the most recent date your council collected community input. So maybe it's a survey that you sent out, or maybe you attended a event that you funded and you talked to some people at that event. Whatever that last date was, you're going to select it. So let's say it was in July, let's say the 19th. You can put that date in, we click on it, and then it'll save here. The next part is we're going to put in your council priorities. So let's see, Test LCC actually came up with some local guidelines and priorities in a separate document. So we're going to copy these and paste them right in. Just going to make sure that the whole thing copied over. We also have some sample guidelines. Going to copy these, insert them. And again, I want to make sure that none of this information gets lost. So I'm hitting save draft. Okay. The next section, it's going to ask if we're doing direct grants or reimbursement grants. Test LCC has met and voted and decided that they are doing direct grants this year. Again, I'm going to click save draft just in case. And then we're going to go to our member list. These are the members of Test LCC. You might recognize some names here. Here you'll say if it's up to date. If it is, great, you're going to click yes. If it isn't, you can actually go ahead and click no. And there will be information about how to update your member list. This will pop up. We also, again, as I mentioned earlier, there is a video on our YouTube channel with information and a walkthrough of how to do that. So I recommend checking that out as well. But for now, let's say this is correct. So we're going to say yes, all this information is good. We're going to confirm the completion of the section. For now, we're going to ignore this. This is going to become relevant later. Again, saving draft. And then we're going to click, after we review everything is correct, we're going to click submit. And one final step, there is going to be an alert that comes up that is asking you if you're sure that you want to submit. We are sure. We're going to click yes. And it's going to take us back to the home page. If you want to make sure that you properly submitted the report, you can go back into guidelines and priorities. Scroll down, you'll notice for the FY24 report, it no longer says draft, but it now says pending approval. That means that you've correctly submitted the report. And you're all set.